right, today we are going to be talking about the meaning of culture, the key to human diversity. Culture is many things. It is the way of life that a group of people that share similar beliefs and customs. So, examples are language, religion, economics, history, government, and any more. Let's talk about language first. Language is an important element in a culture's development. It communicates information and experiences. It helps to pass on cultural values and traditions. Even within culture, there are language differences, and these differences are called dialects. The world's languages are organized into language families, large groups of languages that have similar roots. Our next example is religion. We're talking Christianity, Hinduism, and Buddhism. Religion sometimes is the core aspect to culture. Next, we've got government. Governments of the world share certain features. They help maintain order, provide protection, supplies, and other services to people. And lastly, we can talk about economy. Economy is the study of how cultures use their natural resources to meet human needs. So, for example, how people produce, obtain, use, and sell goods and services. So, these are all examples of culture. Now, let me ask you this. Do these pictures offend you? I mean, take a look at those scrumdiddlyumptious, deep fat fried tarantulas. I mean, with a little bit of dipping sauce on the side. How about this? This is a half-formed bird fetus. I mean, this is the creme de la creme in the Philippines, especially if it's crunchy. Now, if any of you were just slightly grossed out by any of these pictures, then you may be guilty of ethnocentrism. People who are ethnocentric apply their own values in judging the behavior and beliefs of other people raised in other cultures. So honestly, the first time I looked at those pictures, I thought, ew. But I mean, come on. I'm terrified of spiders. I couldn't imagine eating one or a half-formed baby, a bird. I mean, that's just not something that my parents made for me as I was growing up. Uh, Ethnocentrism is judging another culture based off their values and standards of one's own. All right, so let's take a second. If we flew to a foreign country and sat down in a restaurant that served cheese covered guinea pigs, many of us, again, immediately would have a horrible reaction. But that's ethnocentrism. We have been raised to believe that guinea pigs are sweet, sweet animals for young children. So remember, when you say ew to chocolate covered ants, you are probably being ethnocentric. Now, culture is a learned behavior. Like I said, we learned from our parents what food, in a sense, is culturally acceptable for us. We learn by observing the behaviors of people in their surroundings, including the recognition of symbols specific to that culture. Cultures teach us to share certain core values that are going to help shape the personality of individuals. So let's talk about culture symbols for a second. Here's the first one. We here are going to all recognize this symbol. This is a crosswalk symbol, also a symbol that we see at schools to indicate that people and children are going to be crossing the street, and we really need to pay attention. Now, throughout the world, there are different versions of the symbols around schools. Here's another culture symbol. All right, we've got Apple, and then we've also got Beats headphones. All right, we are also familiar with Apple products. We've got the iPad, the iPhone, the iPod. We've got MacBook Airs, MacBook Pros, Mac everything. Now, we also recognize Beats, the headphones. These are very high quality, nicely made headphones with great sounds. And Apple and Beats have paired up, but these are both culture symbols. Now, lastly, my favorite, Starbucks. This is a Starbucks in Saudi Arabia, but at first glance, we recognize the green and white. We've got the mermaid in the picture. Even the inside of the store looks just like stores here in America. Yet once we kind of observe the people sitting in the picture, we notice that they're not American. And there's also Arabic. But yet, even if we couldn't read Starbucks, if the Starbucks sign wasn't there and just the Arabic sign, because of the symbol of the mermaid, we would recognize Starbucks. Now, culture is symbolic. Symbols can either be verbal or nonverbal. So if we were actually sitting with this child, drool running down his face in person, and he was bawling his eyes out, we would know verbally that this child was very upset. Here's an example of a nonverbal symbol. A student who looks bored. Now, I have seen many of you make this exact same face during the day. This is a nonverbal symbol for you're bored, you're not very entertained, or maybe you're tired. But again, nonverbal, you didn't even have to speak out loud to communicate the way you were feeling with me or your other teachers. Now, let's talk about ethnic groups. Within cultures, there are many different ethnic groups, and an ethnic group is made up of people who share a common language, history, place of origin, or a combination of these things. So, similar things that make up culture. Now, we have a very diverse population of ethnic groups. We have Mexican Americans, African Americans, Africans, Italians, Italian Americans, and so many more here at our own school. Within ethnic groups, we have social groups. So, you guys, middle school students, are their own weird, spunky social group. You all have your own norms that you allow guide your social interactions on a day-to-day basis. Geographers have divided the earth into cultural regions based on similarity in language, religion, social group, government, and economy. And this helps us study cultural diffusion better and answer the question, where did culture influences come from? Well, culture has spread rapidly during the last 250 years. This is because of industrialization and globalization. All right, so industrialization was when we started being able to produce things like cars and food much quicker. And because we could produce it much quicker, we could trade much easier and faster, and thus globalization happened. So cultures are increasingly coming into contact as a result of improved trade relations, better communication, and easier travel. So when you sit down to eat Mexican food next time, remember that is globalization, that is cultural diffusion. It is something that has all begun to mix together. All right, well, thanks for spending this time with me today, and remember, the rest is history.